Hello everybody and welcome back to the FPL Phillips YouTube channel, but this video isn't just for people who are wildcarding, which is what you might get the impression of if you read the title and looked at the thumbnail, but this video is going to be revealing the wildcard draft that I would currently have, but we're going to have segments cutting away to look at different positions, to look at the different options available at the moment, and overall just discuss what is the most optimal team in my view that I'm looking at to try and attain over the next couple of game weeks, and what are the kind of players that I would have to go a little bit differential if I was on a wild card right now. So that's going to be all in today's video. Make sure to subscribe if you're one of the new people watching. Leave a thumbs up if you do enjoy it at the end of it. And remember, always leave a comment down below if you've got any FPL questions that you'd like to ask me. I reply to every single comment on every single video, and I'll try to keep doing that on this one as well. So make sure to do that if you want to. Join the members club by hitting the join button if you like. But without any more waffle, let's get into talking some FPL. Now, goalkeepers in FPL haven't been a massive success story so far this season, from Jordan Pickford just getting unlucky and overall not playing that well, to Johnston and other keepers now looking like they might not be first choice anymore and having question marks over them. So deciding on someone to go for between the sticks was difficult, but I think a lot of us right now would make a keeper change if we had the option to. And the one that I would select to go for on a wildcard as my kind of first choice goalkeeper would be Leno, who I think's had a really strong start to the season, kind of picked up where he left off from last year's campaign, where he's got that potential for save points, 4 bonus points, and even in some of the tougher fixtures, he can come away with a massive haul if somehow Fulham do manage to keep a clean sheet, which with him between the sticks, it does look likely in almost every game. They concede a lot of chances, but he's very hard to beat as that kind of last point of defence for Fulham. But there's another reason why I like to go with Leno, and it's because of the other man you can see on screen next to him. Areola as backup goalkeeper looks like he's going to retain his first choice spot at West Ham, which is something that can't really be said for the other popular 4.0 or thereabouts million option in Matt Turner. Now, Forest have signed another keeper, he may come in and start, so he's another one who has question marks over his minutes. But Leno and Areola, you know you've kind of got two first choice keepers. There's a slim chance, I suppose, that some point in the season Fabianski may come in, but for now, Areola does look first choice. And with these two keepers, you get a really nice set of fixtures. And these are the fixtures you can see on screen right now. And these are the ones that are making me very tempted to want to go for Leno. And if I had the option, I would definitely switch over to Areola as my backup. But if you have Areola already as your backup, then you're in a good spot. And looking at Leno, if you've got someone like a Pickford in your team right now, would definitely be something I'd be considering doing. Probably not this game week if you can start, maybe your backup keeper, but definitely in game week 6 at least, could be a time for a goalkeeper transfer, and then try and set and forget them all the way up until game week 15 that you can do with this pairing if you're able to get to it. So I really like the look of it. You could see the first 4 fixtures when we were on the slide before, but I've expanded it all the way up until game week 15. It isn't perfect. You do have some slightly trickier fixtures on paper. In game week 9, you have to pick between Tottenham and Aston Villa, both away games, which isn't brilliant. And then in game week 11, you've got Manchester United at home or Brentford away. But those are the only 2 game weeks where I had a bit of a dilemma as to who I would start if I owned this pairing. But things can change, and maybe the decisions would go different ways. But I've highlighted in that kind of gradient what you can see are the fixtures where you would be playing that goalkeeper, obviously. So there's a very even split. You do get a lot of use out of Areola, which I think is a good thing because he's been performing really well. And overall, I just really like the look of this goalkeeper pairing and this rotation, which I found using the rotation planner over on the Fantasy Football Fix website. I'll leave a link down below in the description if you want to check it out for yourselves. But yeah, these are the goalkeepers I would have in my team. And let me know, would you have a different pairing right now? And if you're looking at a goalkeeper transfer, are you going to make it? And if so, which keeper would you be bringing in? So we'll move on to the defence then, where there are going to be quite a number of differential options that I'm really liking the look of at the moment, and some key absentees from this defence as well as a result. So I've not gone with Chilwell, El Estepinian, which I think is going to be a little bit controversial. This is the back 5 that I've decided to go with. And it also doesn't feature a Luton defender, which we're going to get onto in just a second as well. Of course, they've got their double game week that's been announced. That's been all included. I've included that in all my calculations and decisions for this side. But I've gone with Zinchenko, Fabian Schär, Udogie, Pinnock, and then Anderson. So some very differential options and not ones you're going to be seeing in a lot of teams besides Udogie really at this point. But I'll take a look at the rotation and the fixtures and how they line up, because that's the main thing I was looking at when looking for defenders. Are some good performing defences that rotate nicely, and you can basically start 3 of them each week, because I don't want to be starting a back 4 really. I've covered in my second last video how the expected clean sheet data from this season is a lot worse than it was last year. So basically, we're going to have a lot fewer clean sheets in FPL, it seems, from the data so far. If we take that over the entirety of the course of the season, we're going to see over 100 points less for defenders and goalkeepers in terms of clean sheets. So I'm only going to be wanting to start a back 3, really, for the majority of the season, for pretty much every game week. And this is the defence and how you would start a back 3 out of all of them. The only game week where I've not been able to decide conclusively is game week 12, where there are kind of 4 really nice fixtures, and it was very hard to pick between, so I would just decide at the time then. But this is how it's kind of shaping up with the 5 clubs, you can see, with the defenders there as well. So the fixtures look really good. You're able to bench for some tricky away games, playing all the top 6, these big teams, you know. You want to have the defenders in your team who have got the best chance of getting the clean sheets that are going to be hard to come by, but also those fixtures are going to lend themselves to more attacking returns, and I have tried to pick some defenders who have that potential as well. Pinnock's been known to get attacking returns. Anderson's look good as well. Fabian Schär, despite all being centre-backs, are ones who've had a significant goal threat and assist threat in Pinnock's case over the season just gone and also into this season too. So I really like that. Just picked Pinnock over Henry. Just picked Fabian Schär over going for Trippier. I'm a little bit hesitant to spend that extra money on him when Fabian Schär had great goal threat last season and maybe is less prone to rotation, with maybe Livramento coming in when Trippier is having to play a lot of minutes in the Champions League, especially against the tough teams that they've had in their draw, Newcastle. Anderson and Crystal Palace, I really think, are doing well defensively. They have got a tricky fixture run and arguably the toughest set of fixtures up until around the game week 11 mark. So perhaps there's one where you could go for a different option at this point. But in fact, if you were to change a defender out of these bunch to put in a Luton defender, what the Fantasy Football Fix rotation planner recommends is you take out the Brentford defender, which kind of makes sense because Luton, in game week 6 and game week 7, where you can see Brentford in the 4th row down, have Everton and Nottingham Forest. Luton have, of course, their double game week in game week 7, where they have 2 nice fixtures, and they also have Wolves the game week prior at home in game week 6. So those are 2 fixtures where you could play them. It gets a little bit more tricky when you look further on to game week 9, where you would be starting Pinnock, and game week 11, where you'd also be starting Pinnock. So it's a little bit more tricky then. Luton don't have the nicest fixture in game week 9. They are away at Nottingham Forest, so it's still a pretty favourable fixture on paper. But with how Luton have been playing so far, can you really say that you'd rather take a chance on a Luton defender over starting someone like maybe even Anderson at home against Tottenham? Would probably be a better shout, to be honest, in terms of a clean sheet. Nothing against Luton, they just haven't looked very good defensively at all. So probably after game week 7, I would want to just bench Kabore or whichever Luton defender you want to go for, but he looks the favourite for the remainder of the games, and he'd just sit as that 5th sub, 3rd on the bench, you know, all the way throughout the rest of the time that he's owned, basically. So he would just be in for game week 7, and ideally maybe just only start that game week, but you could also start him in game week 6, is what I'm saying, with that fixture against Wolves, despite the fact that there's probably a slim chance of a clean sheet in that one. But we're going to have fewer clean sheets anyway this year, and Kabore did look decent going forward in the first few games, I thought. So yeah, that's the kind of defense and the analysis so far. Let me know what you guys think of these options. There was another one that I wanted to just mention before we move on to the midfield, and that was Alex Moreno. And Matty Cash is one that I did want to put into this kind of draft, but Moreno, when he played last season, did play a lot more attacking than Matty Cash, and it kind of forced Cash back into this more defensive position at times. Now, reading from what I've seen on Twitter from Aston Villa fans, and particularly one Aston Villa fan, FPL Villain, if you don't follow him for Aston Villa analysis and stuff like that, I really recommend you would do. Personally, he thinks that Moreno isn't going to affect Cash's attacking potential too much, but the main reason I'm holding off is that I wouldn't know which of the 2 I would want. The fixtures aren't brilliant, and I would probably wait and maybe even go for Moreno at 5.0 million, because only Kieran Trippier last year had more FPL points per 90 of the defenders who had the same amount of minutes as Moreno. Of course, he joined a little bit through the season, but he was fantastic at getting points returns when he was in that team. So I would maybe just gamble on one right now, but to be honest, I like waiting a few more weeks, maybe using a defender transfer a little bit down the line in order to bring in which of Moreno or Cash is looking better maybe at the time. But I really like the look of this defensive rotation. Let me know if you look at something similar yourself. Like I mentioned, the rotation planner is linked down below in the description if you want to check out the Fantasy Football Fix website. I won't gain anything from that in terms of money. The link will just be down there. But yeah, we'll move into the midfield now and have a look at the midfield 5 and how that is looking. In the midfield, we have got the double Spurs mids with Mbeumo, Rashford, and then Bukayo Saka. So a very stacked midfield and a very template midfield, really. Not too many differentials in here like we kind of have got in the defensive line. Heung-min Son's looked fantastic, and to be honest, I really back him to do well in the next few fixtures. Not only the Sheffield United game, but I think the Arsenal game and the Liverpool game might actually lend themselves more to Son returns, just for the fact that it will be more open games, and I think Sheffield United might set up quite defensively in the fixture we've got coming up next. In fact, I think Maddison might even outperform Heung-min Son in the next game, but then I think Son has probably got a better chance of attacking returns against Arsenal and Liverpool than Maddison might have. But I've gone with the pair of them anyway. I think they look brilliant. I think Spurs are attacking so much and they're going to score a lot of goals. There's no real question in my mind as to whether I'd want to double up on them. Despite the plethora of good midfield options, I think that Son and Maddison would definitely be in a wildcard draft for myself. We've then got Mbeumo, who's just scoring and scoring and scoring at the moment. He's getting penalties. He's scored a fantastic goal in game week 4 as well, bringing that down and running through. He's just showing a lot of quality. Brentford are relying on him for goals, and at his price, there's no real dilemma for me whether he would stay in my team or whether I would definitely bring him in if I was on a wild card. There is a sniff of maybe you could bench him this week against Newcastle if you've got, say, a strong front 3 and 4 other great midfield options. But from then on out, he's a penalty taker. I don't really like benching them anyway. Definitely one that I'd favour having in my side the majority of weeks. We've then got Marcus Rashford, who I've gone for over Bruno Fernandes, which is a slightly controversial take, I would say, given if you look at the expected data, Bruno Fernandes does seem to lead the way over Marcus Rashford. But it is worth noting that although the data last season was similar for Rashford playing in the left wing and playing up front, this season I thought he looked rather poor, and Manchester United in general didn't look great when Rashford was playing up front for the first 3 games. Whereas now Rasmus Højlund is in the side, and even when Martial was playing up front at times, Rashford looked much more improved off the left-hand side, was able to grab assists as well as cutting in for that goal against Arsenal, which is kind of an example of just what Marcus Rashford likes to do and how he gets us FPL returns. Just a little bit of a gut feeling as well, and kind of based on my assessment and analysis, a little bit of the eye test, not just going on the stats with that one, but I'm interested to hear what you guys think on the Bruno versus Rashford. Would you still have both of them on a wild card? Because it seems like maybe it's a little bit of a waste. I think a lot of people own 2 of them right now. I'd maybe use this chance to switch away from one Manchester United midfielder because I just like the other options a lot more. And Bukayo Saka is another penalty taker who'll come into this draft, assuming we're covering the one with the Spurs, 2 midfielders there. The penalty taker should be there between them. I think it's going to be Heung-min Son, but we've got Mbeumo, who's definitely a penalty taker anyway. Bukayo Saka, of course, on penalties in most cases for Arsenal. We've seen Odegaard take one already this season. But he's looked really good, and I think Arsenal, you kind of have to go with a midfield option. They are looking strong. They beat Manchester United, of course, recently, and I think they've got some nice fixtures coming up where Saka will do well, Arsenal will do well, and they'll just continue on. And Saka was priced too low at the start of the season, and he's going to continue to offer good value, even at 8.7 million in my view. And then finally up front, where it maybe gets a little bit more exciting, we have got a Luton player coming in, so we have gone with Morris, who is going to start basically just game week 7 and then no other game weeks. I said Mbeumo is a benchable player. Whether I would bench him for Morris this game week in game week 5 is probably a case where I wouldn't choose to do so, but each to their own. If you want to, if you feel like you want to get some more value out of that 5.5 million, because you're essentially spending that extra 1 million than going with Archer. By going with Morris, is it worth spending $1 million on a player just to play them for one extra fixture in one extra game week? I'll leave that up for you to decide. But I've definitely gone with Erling Haaland, and I've gone with Alvarez as well as the 2 other forward picks. I still like Nicholas Jackson as an option. I still like Ollie Watkins. Darwin Núñez could even present a good pick at this time. But Alvarez, for me, has just looked brilliant. His data as well over the first couple of game weeks looks fantastic. And going on what we've seen in terms of minutes, he is playing a lot of game time. And I'm assuming that is going to continue. We can never know with Pep and roulette and all that stuff. But Alvarez, for now, is one that I would definitely back and would have in my team if I were on a wildcard at the moment. So yeah, this draft comes in at 0.7 mil in the bank for me, so I'm assuming kind of that everyone will be able to afford it. There's no real downgrades that I think you need to do, but you could obviously lose Morris and just go with Archer at 4.5 million if you want to, and have a little bit of funds to play around and kind of not commit too much to that double game week. Because I think it is important not to get carried away, and we do often do that with double game weeks, I think. Even ones that look far more promising than this one. And the fact that this one is getting a lot of hype and excitement because it's a double game week early in the season, which we don't often have. When you look at the two teams, and you look at Burnley having pretty poor fixtures in it really, and although Luton have good fixtures, they look pretty shambolic, and they're both away games. I don't really think I'm buying into the hype too much. I'm going to try stay grounded, not consume too much content around this double game week, because straight off the bat, unless we see some drastic improvements from Luton over the next 2 game weeks or something like that, I'm not too keen overall investing on it. But if I was on a wild card, I would probably have Morris. I would also, like I said, with Kabore, you could have him in the defence as well. So yeah, there are some options there you can go for and just have on the bench the majority of the time. Play just for that 1 game week. But with this team, it's worth noting that you are going to have to make a tough choice as to who you would bench out of the other attackers. It would probably be Maddison for me. As I mentioned, I think Son will do better in a game against someone like a Liverpool, who Spurs face in game week 7. So it'd probably be that. The rest of the front attack all have great fixtures, so it'd have to be one of the Spurs boys. I'd probably bench Maddison, which still stings a little bit, but you have to favour the double game week player, of course. If you're going for them, then you've got to start them in game week 7, obviously. But yeah, that's going to wrap up today's video. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe, as mentioned, if you are new around here, and choose to leave a thumbs up if you did enjoy the video. That would be much appreciated. Leave a comment, as I mentioned at the start of the video, if you've got any FPL questions or queries of your own. And if you'd like to help to support the channel, because I'm trying to counterbalance everything at the moment with my spending on software and stuff like this, and the money we're giving away for charity, then you can do so via joining the members club. We're giving away money for charity in these kind of quiz videos that hopefully you guys may not have seen. But if you haven't, I'll try and remember to leave myself a card up there. Definitely go and check it out if you're big into your FPL, because a lot of people seem to have been enjoying them. And hopefully we can continue with all that series. So yeah, thank you very much for tuning in, everyone. I hope to catch you in the next video, where hopefully I'll see you there. Goodbye.